Banners for the second half of 4.0 are live, bringing us reruns of Zhongli and Tartaglia with Noelle, Sayu, and the new character Freminet as 4-star constellation prizes on these banners. So let's get into these event wishes. Tartaglia is really only a DPS, with his best weapons being Polar Star, his signature and best in slot, Thundering Pulse, and a 4-star option, Rust. He really likes attack and hydro damage on his artifacts, preferring Nymph Stream or harder depth sets, but can make do with 2-piece Gem, 2-piece Glad for the stacked attack percent. His Ascension stat is hydro damage bonus, further pushing him into the DPS role. He steals the show in teams like International with Kazuha, Zhongli, and Bennett, and works well in Taser comps with Fischl, Beidou, and either an Anemo or Hydro character. He's also useful in Hyperbloom teams, especially if you're using him to apply that Hydro. If you're looking for a Hydro carry but aren't sure about wishing for Tartaglia specifically, some possible substitutions are Ayato and Jilan, or even Xingqiu if built correctly. Ayato would be closer to a 1-to-1 replacement, as he wants to stay on field like Tartag, and uses basically the same artifact sets and stats. Jilan and Xingqiu, however, are a bit more versatile and can work in nearly any team that needs some Hydro. Let's not beat around the bush. Zhongli is the best shielder in the game, and is a no-brainer for anyone who wants an upgrade from Noelle. Since his Ascension stat is Geo damage bonus, he can work pretty well as a DPS, but it's far more common for him to focus on protecting the team, especially with his best in slot shielder weapon being the 3-star Black Tassel. DPS Zhongli won't staff of Homa like many other polearm DPS characters. His shield has 100% uptime, on top of having a 20-second duration, which is basically twice as long as nearly every other shielder in the game. While he can work on mono Geo teams as either a shielder or DPS, one of his best uses is protecting a DPS who's vulnerable to interruption, like Wanderer or Yoimiya. If you're looking for a Geo DPS, but are hesitant to pull for Zhongli, you can look to Arataki Ito or Ning Wang to fill that role. On the other side, Layla, Noelle, Toma, and Diona could replace him as team shielders. Alright, it's analysis time. If you want a shielder, it's not going to be a better choice than Zhongli. Like I mentioned, his best in slot weapon for this build is actually a 3-star, the Black Tassel, which everybody can get fairly easily, and for the artifacts he relies on Tenacity the Millileth. The Tenacity domain also gives you Pale Flame pieces, and you can use those for any physical DPS that you might want to build. Alternatively, you can strongbox for Tenacity, but I wouldn't recommend strongboxing for anything until you're fairly late into the game. But for an early shielder build, you can just level your HP percent main stat artifacts and they'll do just fine. Additionally, although there are some other shielders in the game, you need to consider elemental reactions that you'd initiate using those shielders. When it comes to teams, Zhongli is incredibly flexible and can be built in a plethora of ways depending on your needs. Tartaglia, however, is a little bit tougher to grind for, as his best weapons all come from gacha, and the artifacts that really work for him are a little bit tougher to get. While you can strongbox for Shin, Glad, and Heart of Depth, and get plenty of Glad pieces from boss farming, Tartag really wants Hydro damage bonus. In order to farm Nymph Stream pieces, you'll need to make it to the Sumeru Desert, and if you don't want to farm Varakash's Glow pieces as well, you're SOL. Again, you can use the trash pieces to strongbox for Heart of Depth, but it's not a good idea for most players. Finally, Tartaglia's role stays the same in nearly every team he's on as an on-field DPS. If you don't want a Hydro character who stays on the screen through most rotations, you better pass on him. But what about Freminet? He's a Physical Cryo DPS, and depending on how many stacks of his skill you collect, it changes how much Physical or Cryo he does with this skill. Diving into his constellations, C4 buffs his attack when he initiates Superconduct, Freeze, or Shatter, and C6 buffs crit damage when he causes those reactions as well. So it's pretty clear that he'll be an on-field DPS that works best on a freeze team. But if only we didn't have another Cryo Claymore character who's really spec'd into physical damage. A 4-star Claymore user who infuses weapons for easy application, or a free 4-star character who hovers between physical and Cryo DPS already. Add in that you can obtain a copy of Shongyun each year for the Lantern Rite, and suddenly Freminet seems a little bit less useful. On the flip side, he's one of the first characters that really takes advantage of the Shatter reaction, and his kit gives the player an actual choice as to which damage type to spec into. So what do you think about Freminet? Let me know in the comments. But you watch my videos, it means you're smart, right? You wouldn't wish on the event banner just for a new 4-star character, the same way I don't need to go over just how bad the weapon banner is. Vortex Vanquisher, yuck. Its main usefulness would be on Shenhe or Yunjin, but they have better options. Polar Star can be good, especially for DPS characters like Child, Ganyu, Yoimiya, or even Fischl, but unless you know exactly who you want to equip it on, you should probably skip Polar Star as well. So those are the banners for the second half of 4.0. Personally, I'm saving for Ryosli and Farina, but I'm going to try to pull a Polar Star for my upcoming video about building an off-field Aggravate Fischl, especially with the new Golden Troop artifact bonuses. If you liked the video, consider subscribing for more banner recap videos like this, as well as niche character builds that keep the gameplay fresh and exciting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.